Hello, I'm Dr. Rostenberg, and I want to personally thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. Stay tuned at the end of the video, and I will give my recipe for your healing process. Now, I wish we could achieve our results with just diet and lifestyle alone, but supplements really do make the difference. And to help you with that, you'll have an opportunity to order supplements at a discounted rate. We'll see you then. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Rostenberg again from BeyondMTHFR.com. And I'm excited to share with you today the first of several videos that are going to highlight for us the connection between methylation, MTHFR, and the gut, and more specifically the stress-gut connection. And I believe the science contained in this series helps to explain why some people, when they take supplements based off their genetic report or to support their methylation pathways, get worse. In other words, what's going on in the gut is the reason why taking vitamins that are good for most people make some people even worse. And that is the big idea we're going to cover in the next series of videos. The SNPs of concern. In my personal and clinical opinion, the most problematic genes for disrupting our gut due to the effects of stress are ACE, COMT, GAD, MAO, and MTHFR. MTHFR would also include the other related enzymes such as MTR, MTRR, MTHFS, etc. That whole folate pathway cycle. And its effect on the methylation cycle is a big player in how we process our catecholamines and our stress hormones. And the reason why is these SNPs combine to create a perfect storm. And I'm going to talk about this over and over again because this is one of the most important aspects of treating people with methylation problems, is realizing that it's not just one SNP by itself, it's how they all combine to affect the clinical presentation. But angiotensin converting enzyme, COMT, GAD, all of these three basically increase the sympathetic activity. Angiotensin is a hormone that's released as part of the adrenal's response to stress. Having the ACE SNP means you're going to have higher levels of angiotensin, and that causes vasoconstriction to the blood vessels that nourish the gut and viscera. I'll explain that in further videos, but that causes negative effects to the gut. The COMT enzyme, we all know now that that is a key player in breaking down our hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine. And as you'll see, those are the hormones that cause bugs in our gut to go crazy. GAD, again, that's glutamic acid decarboxylase. That is basically glutamate. So if we don't break down glutamate very well, we're more likely to be affected by glutamate, and that has a tendency to have an inflammatory effect on our nervous system and increases the stress response. MAO, again, usually it's the problem with MAO is that it's sped up, and we know MTHFR from previous videos, and we will go into that in more detail in the future. What I want to really share with you today, the most important part of this, if you learn one thing from this video, it's that stress hormones cause rapid growth of gram-negative bacteria. This bacteria is always present in our gut. It's normal and it's supposed to be there. However, the bacteria is very sensitive to what the host, us, is experiencing. And the bacteria listens for signals from us to see whether or not we are stressed out. And what researchers have figured out is if you take 2 petri dishes filled with plasma and you put a little E. coli in there and you squirt adrenaline into one and you don't put any adrenaline in the other petri dish, adding adrenaline to the petri dish causes the E. coli to grow 10,000 times faster. 4 logarithmic scales is 10,000%. It's a very giant increase in growth. So bugs grow when we're stressed out. That's a key point. We know that the gut and the brain talk to each other, and this is nothing new for researchers or students out there. But the important thing to remember is that the enteric nervous system lives in the gut wall. It lives in the gut wall, the stomach wall, the esophageal wall, the small intestine, large intestine, rectum, sigmoid colon, etc. That's where this whole nervous system lives, and it's always communicating back to the brain and other organs. So whatever's happening in our gut, our body is acutely aware of. And this is an important point, because patients who experience symptoms that flare up when they take vitamins, especially quote-unquote methylation support vitamins, the reason they're having a symptom is because of the imbalance in their gut, and that has to get treated first. It's what we do in our office. It's how we help people. We can walk you through that process. This is more data. Studies are showing, just like that first slide I showed you that showed a 10,000% 4-log increase in growth. This is a chart showing the red bacteria are the pathogenic bacteria, okay? Density or quantity. This is pre-stress hormones, pre-stress experience, post-stress experience. Do you see the change? Do you see the increase in size of the pathogenic growth of bad bugs? So stress is our biggest problem, and managing stress is different for everybody, yet the same, because certain rules apply. But really, we need to know that when we are experiencing high stress, our gut is also experiencing that. Over half of all adrenaline that we release in our body gets dumped into the lumen of the gut. Over half of all adrenaline that we release goes directly into the gut. That adrenaline goes straight to these bacteria, who take it as a sign that prolonged stress can significantly change the composition of the intestinal flora. And this makes us more susceptible to things like C.Diff or E. coli or sepsis or a bladder infection. Sound familiar? These are things that we deal with in our clinic every day, and when you see someone who comes in who survived sepsis or some kind of E. coli infection, you know that they've been under prolonged stress, or they have the genetics that keep their stress hormones elevated. The thing to remember is, if your stress hormones are being released and you have SNPs that make it harder for your body to break down those stress hormones, that means the adrenaline is in the gut longer, and that can be a problem, because the gut is responding to the adrenaline by bacteria that we don't want to grow is growing because of the adrenaline. So SNPs make this problem worse, is the moral of that story. So Salmonella grows faster when adrenaline, specifically noradrenaline, is added in a study. So if you take Salmonella and you give it access to our catecholamines, our stress hormones, it grows faster. I'm going to explain why. Okay, it's not just the hormone itself, but what you need to know is that stress-related catecholamines modulate the virulence of enteric bacterial pathogens. Okay, in plain English, that means that stress gives bad bacteria signals to grow and be more aggressive. That's what you got to know. And the reason why stress does that is that stress allows bacteria to steal our iron. Okay, our body keeps iron like locked up on an armored truck, because it doesn't want anything other than our own cells to have access to it. However, if you give bacteria stress hormones, aka catecholamines, then those bacteria get access to our iron. And that poses a problem, because once bacteria gets our iron, they can then utilize it for rapid growth. So this is what the research says. Stress hormones cause bad bugs in our gut to grow faster. The way it happens is the stress hormones give bad bugs access to our iron. Is anybody listening dealing with chronic anemia? That's something we see in our office all the time. And we often see it in patients who grew up taking a lot of antibiotics, having a lot of ear infections, having a lot of gut problems. This explains why. The gut being sick, filled with stress hormones, is allowing bugs to steal the iron from us, a la chronic anemia. Okay? It's a bacterial nutrient source. Iron is a bacterial nutrient source, and when we are stressed out, bad bugs get aggressive and steal it from us. Adrenalin causes biofilm formation. This is a study looking at staph. Staph can be a bad bug. It can cause MRSA. It kills people. If you give staph access to our stress hormones, if staph is overgrowing in our gut and we go into a long, prolonged stress reaction, or we have SNPs that are causing us to keep our stress hormones elevated for too long, the staph will increase biofilm formation. All biofilm formation is like the buildings, the architecture that bacteria builds in a colony. It just means that the bacteria's been there a long time and they've had a chance to build, for all intents and purposes, their architecture, their city that they live in. It's harder for our body to kill biofilm, but it's not impossible. One of the best tools we have is glutathione and NAC. NAC is a mucolytic. It cuts biofilm. But what you need to know is that stress hormones allow staph and other bacteria, gram-negative bacteria, to steal our iron. And when they steal our iron, they grow like crazy. So stress does affect our gut, and this is one of the main ways it does it. Now the good news, I've maybe scared you or made you feel a little uneasy looking at all those gross pictures. The thing to remember is, by knowing how the problem works tells us how to fix it. That's why answering the question why is so important. We now know that the gut communicates with the brain. We talked about that already. The enteric nervous system lives in the wall of the gut. This is a picture here showing you from the esophagus to the rectum. It's all there. Who and what lives in our gut is responsible for regulating anxiety, mood, cognition, and pain. Is anybody listening, like many of my patients who suffer from anxiety and chronic pain, or have brain fog, or are very moody? I've been there, okay? When you fix your gut, it changes your whole life. And you need to recognize that those symptoms, anxiety, mood swings, difficulty thinking, and pain, are major signs of a gut problem. Okay, this is what the research is saying. Now, one of the big problems with people who suffer from anxiety is that you're just basically given pharmaceuticals and said have a nice life. You'll be taking this for the rest of your life. For a lot of patients, that's just not okay, philosophically nor health-wise. So what we know is that brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a growth factor that allows neurons to grow, make new connections, it makes us smarter. It's a great thing. And it decreases glutamate channels, so it decreases inflammation, it increases learning, and decreases glutamate problems. So if there's a glutamate problem, you got to start with the gut first. This research says from 2013, oral probiotics increase brain derived neurotrophic factor and impart significant anxiolytic effects, meaning good bugs in your gut, once the gut's been healed and cleaned out, like on our program in our office, patients experience improved learning and lower anxiety. That's what the research says, because probiotics increase the hormones in the gut that are healthy, that are happy, that improve how we feel. So people out there listening who are really just struggling with supplementation, they just continue to get worse no matter what recipe they try, I'm guaranteeing you have a gut problem. And I'm going to explain why now. I'm going to explain why that gut problem is giving you your symptoms. Why do methyl nutrients make my symptoms worse? Well, because gut bugs have a methylation cycle also. So if you already have an overgrowth of gram-negative bacteria or Salmonella or E. coli or C.Diff, to name a few, they will eat your B vitamins first. I'm just hate to say it that way, but it's true. They're going to steal your vitamins and grow with it. So before we give you vitamins that actually help you and your genes express health, we have to remove the roadblock. We have to remove the bad bugs, okay? So there's methyltransferases and all kinds of bacteria. Here they're mentioning tuberculosis. Same story. E. coli has homocysteine in it. So if it has homocysteine, you can take it to the bank that it has a methylation cycle, guys. So if you already have an overgrowth of E. coli and all you do is take methyl B12 and methylfolate and you get sick, it's not the fault of methylfolate or methyl B12. We've got to clean up the gut first, and I really hope I've made that, giving you some evidence here to back that up. But this is brand new science. It's coming out last year and even this year. This is an important part of treating methylation disorders. It's a really important part of what we do. So if you're struggling out there dealing with symptoms that just don't make sense and you're ready for a change, please reach out and leave any comments or questions you have. On my blog, on my website, I will answer them. I will look at them. And just to recap real quick, the SNPs that are the problem are the ACE, COMT, GAD, MAO, MTHFR. These conspire to increase adrenaline, which increases growth of bacteria. Bacteria uses the adrenaline to steal your iron, and with the iron they make biofilms and take up residence in your gut. Then you take vitamins to try and get better, and you actually just cause the bacteria to grow even faster because bacteria have methylation cycles too. Then you end up with anxiety, mood disorders, cognition problems, foggy brain and pain. And in the solution, fix the gut, you'll get smarter, and you'll feel better. I can help you do that. Thanks for your time today. Look out for the next video in this series. Thank you. It's coming next week. Bye-bye. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Rostenberg again from BeyondMTHFR.com. Today we're talking about the stress-gut connection and its relationship to the methylation cycle and genetic polymorphisms. And this is the part 2 video covering this subject. And really what this topic is all about is how genes we inherit predispose us to leaky gut and other symptoms that seem to flare up and get worse when we experience high stress or chronic stress. And that's the goal of this presentation, is to help explain why that happens and recognize the symptoms of that process. So this is a slide from the part 1 video, a quick review that science is now pretty clear that stress hormones, adrenaline, catecholamines cause rapid growth of bacteria. If you do a stool test and you see a high amount of quote-unquote non-pathogenic E. coli and other gram-negative bacteria, what you're very likely seeing is the increasing growth of those bacteria due to the effects of stress. So stress causes the release of adrenaline, and half of the adrenaline that we release goes into the gut. This adrenaline gets into the gut and allows the bacteria living there to grow quickly. This slide is another review slide from the last video, but it's such a good example showing basically that the dark red color here represents the increase in growth of the bad bugs due to the stress of the host. So the bugs that live within us are always looking for signals as to our state of mind and how healthy we are. And if we give the bugs signals that we're under stress, they take that as a cue to engage in high growth. And this can make us sick and cause anxiety and all the other symptoms that we talk about in the part 1 video. So if you haven't seen the first video, I recommend you take some time to check that out. We're looking at a different set of SNPs today. We're going to dig in and kind of look at how the IgA SNPs can impact our symptoms, symptoms that we experience or that our loved ones are going through. And you're going to find as we go through this process in this video and the next video that IgA is really important. So all these genes here in the IgA category from the MTHFR support variant report are going to predispose an individual to leaky gut symptoms. So when stress occurs in individuals' lives who have these genes, the odds of them having a gut reaction go up. The reason why is SIGA is like IgE. You may have heard of that, IgE or IgD, IgM. It's an immunoglobulin. It's just a part of our immune system that our body makes. What IgA is very important for is that it defends our mucosal barrier. It's the ultimate immunoglobulin for the gut, and it protects our mouth all the way down to the other end, and it's the largest of all those systems. So it's the largest humoral immune system of the body. It's real important, guys. It's just like the picture of these soldiers defending their ground. SIGA protects our gut lining. It prevents antigens from entering our body. It prevents things from leaking in, okay? If something does leak in, IgA also neutralizes toxins from viruses and dead bacteria. That's what this means right here. Virus and endotoxin neutralization. That means viruses and dead bacteria that are leaking into our gut are neutralized by IgA without causing any damage to our body. So it's a beautiful system that we have to protect us. We want to make sure it's working as well as possible. A quick review again of the other SNPs that we often speak of, but these are very, very problematic SNPs for increasing the response to stress. The ACE gene involves breaking down angiotensin, and that's a stress hormone that increases fight or flight. COMT, we know they break down adrenaline. They also break down estrogen. MAO, enzyme A, that breaks down adrenaline as well. So MTHFR and the glutamic acid decarboxylase, the GAD gene. So when you see these genes all present in the same person, this person is predisposed. They have a very high likelihood, they have a tendency to feel the effects of stress in ways that other people just never will. So when you have these genes here, these stress genes, you're going to have higher levels of adrenaline in your body. All things being equal, you will have adrenaline longer, you will have adrenaline in higher amounts. Now, that will give your gut more of a stress, okay? And if you also have these genes, then you're going to be more likely to have leaky gut. Leaky gut is due to stress hormones, okay? We already know this, and research 2011 proves it as well. Your immune system lives inside lymph nodes, but in the gut they're called Peyer's patches. That's just the name they have. Those are your lymph nodes in your gut. When you have cortisol, glucocorticoids, and catecholamines, adrenaline, repeated stress favors the entry of pathogens through the intestine. What they're saying is IgA producing cells are decreased when cortisol and adrenaline is high. Okay? IgA goes down when stress hormones go up. If you have these genes, you will have higher levels of stress hormones. Therefore, you probably will suffer from a tendency to have a leaky gut, which is why you got to be more careful with your diet and work with practitioners to understand how to get this figured out for your individual needs. The problem is not just with IgA, it's that stress as a whole reduces blood flow to the GI tract. So anything that stresses us out changes where the blood flows in our body. That's just baked in the cake. It's how we're built. And when we experience stress, when our body is full of cortisol and adrenaline, the blood does not flow very well to our organs of digestion and detoxification. This study proved that by basically having individuals ride a bicycle really fast, which is stressful, and they noticed that the blood flow into the gut went down by as much as 50%. So you don't want the blood flowing to your gut to get cut off long, because without oxygen your gut cannot function, and that will itself cause a leaky gut. Another study basically proved the same thing. Heavy physical exercise causes gastrointestinal signs and symptoms. It causes hypoxia to the gut. The same thing happens when we're under stress psychologically. The same thing happens when we're under stress chemically. So stress of any kind will shut off blood flow to the gut. You're looking at a normally functioning gut here, and now you're looking at a gut where the small intestine, large intestine is losing oxygen. Not a good situation. Many patients of mine are dealing with GERD, acid reflux, and just general stomach pain and discomfort. Some of them even have ulcers. Well, here's how ulcers form due to stress. When you have stress in your body, I've just mentioned how the blood flow to the digestive tract is cut off. Well, the stomach is part of that. And when the blood vessels that supply the stomach spasm and get smaller, it causes a loss of the mucosal layer, the protective layer of the stomach, so that now the digestive process itself starts to digest the stomach, causing an ulcer, or certainly causing irritation of the gastric lining. Either way, there will be discomfort and pain in that individual. This is mainly caused by the angiotensin converting enzyme, angiotensin. So people with the ACE genes really got to be careful with their digestion, because they're more predisposed to having poor blood flow to their GI tract, and it can be fixed. Just that's your tendency going forward. Several patients of mine also deal with problems with circulation. So if you have a tingling or numbness in your hands, that's a neurological problem. Okay, when your hands fall asleep and you feel pins and needles, that's a nerve being irritated, so it has some kind of neurological basis. If your hands turn white, you're looking at the loss of blood flow. Okay, loss of blood flow makes your hands cold and changes their color to pale. So what they figured out is that stress hormones reduces blood flow not only to the gut and to the kidneys and to the liver, but also to the skin. So individuals with Raynaud's phenomenon, you're just seeing the outward sign of excess stress hormones affecting their body. We have ways of lowering stress hormones clinically that are very safe and effective, and it usually causes a complete remission or a great reduction in those Raynaud's symptoms. And so that's proof again that when you reduce your stress and you manage it correctly with the right nutrients, that all systems of your body work better. Just as a quick review, the most important stress-related SNPs are these, in my opinion. These SNPs conspire to cause higher levels of adrenaline, higher levels of cortisol in your body. Now, people with higher levels of adrenaline also have a good memory, and they're more focused, and they can also be very intelligent people, because that's a benefit to have more stress hormones in your body sometimes, okay? But it also can work against you. And when you're going to be more susceptible to stress, you have to know that about yourself, and basically take proactive steps to defending yourself against that. We talked a little bit today also about IgA genes. The IgA is the most important part of our immune system to preventing leaky gut. If you have these SNPs in an individual and you have these as well, you're looking at someone who has to be very careful with their diet. This is one of the explanations why individuals with these genes, like myself, just cannot get away with eating whatever they want. Those days are gone. So you have to be selective, you have to be careful, and eat the food that your body does well with in order to nourish yourself and grow stronger. So again, thank you for listening. Stay tuned for part 3. We're going to go a little bit more in depth onto IgA, but you can see from this video how different SNPs affect our body, and having digestive issues and irritable bowel pain in your gut is most often a manifestation of too many stress hormones in your system in a chronic basis. And If you have any questions or comments about that and would like my help with anything, please reach out and send us an email. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for watching this video and sharing it with your friends and family. I personally believe, as I'm sure you do as well, that educating ourselves about what it truly means to be healthy is the only way we're going to change healthcare. I have created a website as a resource for you. To take advantage of this information, navigate to www.beyondmthfr.com and take a look around. In addition to blogs and articles I have written, you will find a tab on the menu labeled Protocols. It is a growing list of tools that I use in my office to help support my patients. You will find background information on common health conditions, you will find a detailed supplement protocol, and you will find dietary advice to support the body's natural healing process. You will also have access to order recommended supplements at a discounted rate and have them shipped to your front door. I'm giving you the tools that I use in practice every day to help you overcome health challenges and live a happier, healthier life. I have done my best to give you that information, and you will find it on these protocol pages. If you are looking for more help than simply what supplements should you take or what diet should you follow, I'm inviting you to come to Boise and see me. Let me and my team and my staff take care of you. We have patients coming from all over the country and all over the area on a regular basis, and there's room for you too. Now, if coming all this way to Boise is too big of a commitment, then please pick up the phone or email my office. We can work together from a distance.